Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Okay, well, today is going to be an interesting day for a lot of reasons. Tina Peters talked a lot about it. By the way, I just want to say thank you to the people that were on Facebook. They were on Facebook. Let's see if I can do this. I spent an hour kind of walking through whether or not I talked about wanting the governor and the attorney general and the secretary of state of Colorado to be tried for treason and hung. Now, the people like Kyle Clark walk past. Kyle Clark, by the way, is the longtime reporter at 9 News. He's a radical Antifa activist and, frankly, a guy that has apologized and allowed for stories about pedophilia and for people in positions of trust and authority that committed those crimes to be overlooked. He also has overlooked stories about people who have been hurt in our community, all to focus on me, because he was told by someone that, you have to make sure you punish people like Joe for standing up for the people in this community. So just a really bad guy. But he put a story out that said that I'm calling for violence. Let me just tell you what is violent. What's violent is what is happening to our communities right now. What is violent is letting children be groomed to the place where they commit suicide at 12 to 15 times the national average. What is violent is creating this social contagion about things that they're doing related to who's a fascist and who is evil and who is not evil. And those are the things that I think we should be more concerned with, but not these people. The violence that we have in our community where someone that goes and tries to abduct a child is told that, we're just going to let you go because you're not competent to stand trial. That is violence. Arresting someone 25 times, putting them back on the street where they commit on the average of 1 felony every 3 months. That is violence. Allowing for gang members and drugs to flow evenly on the street. That is violence and a declaration of war. I mean, what we're facing right now in the United States of America is nothing short of a coup. We are actually actively in a civil war right now, whether you can see it or not. And so there are no rules for me. And I'm slowly getting to that point where I'm starting to make a decision on my own, like from my own environment, on whether or not I'm going to speak the truth while I'm out there trying to say to myself, well, if they capitulate to goodness and they decide to lay down their swords that are meant to hurt and maim and victimize our communities, then maybe I'll give them a chance. But if they don't, what do you expect me to do other than to call for what should have already been done? There should have already been a declaration of insurrection against the United States government. It's very obvious for people to see. So I will say this again. Did I call for and support Polis, Weiser, and Griswold to be tried for treason? Be tried for treason, and if found guilty, to hang. Yes. And they should. This is not a victimless crime. What they have done to the people of Colorado, what they have done to steal their voice, their hard-earned money, by using an election system to get themselves elected, nobody would have elected them. They're unelectable people. They've done horrible things to the American people. The judiciary is absolutely rotted out to the core, and it is filled with people that are put into those positions by these 3 scumbags. But it is not just the Democrats. You have what I call Democrats wrapped in bacon, parading around as Republicans that are equally responsible. Matt Crane is equally responsible. And that brings me to the other part, which is Tina Peters remains in custody. Now, we know that that's in large part caused by a guy named Todd Blanche. Todd Blanche, if you don't know, is from Colorado. It's kind of funny. They have their own little cliques, their own little deal. And he wrote a strongly worded letter to the DOJ saying, let him out, a formality he was forced to do. And for those of you that also don't know, Pam Bondi does most of her business from Florida. She's not even in D.C. Todd Blanche is there and basically acts as the proxy for Pam Bondi. And Pam Bondi flies up for some of the indictments. And if we look around the room, we have some people that are doing serious business to get Tina Peters out. Peter Tickton, doing an amazing job. John Case, amazing job. There are attorneys that are actually trying to push through and drudge through a judiciary that is meant to slow down. We have a ruling that we're waiting on from a judge who is pondering his political future and probably doing a little bit of negotiating on that so that Tina Peters can be out of jail and at home. And they let her out on appeal because she just won the one appeal. The judge did the wrong thing there in the case where she was found to have recorded a conversation in contempt of court. That was thrown out. And now we're on to the other one with Judge Barrett in Mesa County, who colluded with the DA, who colluded with the AG, who colluded with the Department of Justice in order to persecute a 70-year-old Gold Star mom. But Todd Blanche is a guy that we should be paying attention to. He has a lot of authority. It is not uncommon for the United States Department of Justice to ask for someone to be moved to a federal prison. That is not out of the realm of possibilities. It is not even abnormal. What is abnormal is that any sort of agreement between the federal government and the state government is usually honored. In this case, Tina Peters is a witness in the crimes committed against the American people. Now, no amount of charades or in gaslighting is going to change the fact that every day now it intensifies as to why Dominion sold to quote unquote Liberty Vote and the absolute number of problems that we have at every state, at every level about our election systems. And nothing becomes more evident than the absolute irresponsibility and betrayal that we have from the DOJ and the FBI and frankly, parts of the cabinet. But we do know what effective looks like. We look at Bobby Kennedy, he is effective. You look at ODNI and Tulsi Gabbard, who said there's massive problems inside of the election system. And again, sniff the butt, sniff the rim. President Trump was very clear in 2020. He knew that the election was stolen from him. He knew that there were problems down in Georgia. He faced indictment after indictment after indictment after indictment. And Mr. President, Tina Peters is not the only one facing lawsuits, lawfare, and a captured judiciary and legal branch that have weaponized themselves against the American people. I don't know how someone doesn't reach in. You can see effective. You can see Bobby Kennedy is a Democrat, by the way, and he's effective. He knows how to get things done. He's not fearful. And you could say that it's because Bobby Kennedy has had a lapse of judgment and frankly doesn't give a shit. That's probably somewhat true. What was always true, also true, is that these Democrats were trained in a system to be effective and to get across the finish line. Republicans were trained to talk about it, not to be about it. And that's why I look at President Trump and I'm like, you make a better Democrat than you do Republican historically. Because if you want to look at effectiveness, look no further than what has happened to infect our government. And when they effectively get things done, it is not from a Republican standpoint. Republicans do maintain the status quo. They hold people accountable. They throw people in jail that commit crimes. Democrats, much more effective at actually changing policy and getting to a place where they can basically just ruin everything. And when they were done with the inner cities, they looked around and said, what's next? And they go, let's just go after the suburbia. Let's take that over and let's send we already got the institutions. Let's go after the elementary school kids. And the parents just kind of shook their head. Oh, just trust your teacher. To me, it's the people in the Democrat Party. They have brainwashed the most effective people. There are very smart people in the Democrat side. On the Republican side, we are just too wholesome. And we are afraid to just call it what it is. And people that say that they believe in God, they want to follow God. I had the conversation with Sam. You'll hear that on Friday. But even as you walk through all the stuff associated with what we're at right now, 10 or 11 months later, we are in an anemic state at best. And the people that are most effective right now in making serious changes are Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard. You can look at what Kardashian Patel are doing and Dan Bongino are doing. Dan has no real life experience in managing anyone. He was a Secret Service agent, and then he turned to be a podcaster. And all of his flamboyance and all of his bombastiousness that he has, and his, given what it, I mean, being a security guard for important people is an important job. You got to be tight and right on recognizing the threat that's in front of you. But now you go to the FBI and you apologize for the FBI and you basically shit on the American people. The FBI is as ineffective as it possibly ever could have been. And I'm not talking about the people in the FBI, because now that I've had conversations with people in the FBI and I can see that they're filing grievances, you see what Kyle's talking about with Steve Baker and the pipe bomber, and they have enough information. This would have resulted in an indictment, but they won't indict this person. Shows me all you need to know about the fact that our side is the side of anemacy. It is the side of a lack of character. Now, you could say bad character or good character, you should have character. Our side can't even decide what character even is. So Tina Peters rots in jail because of an ineffective group of people. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I've been literally flying through and learning by the book. I read a lot. And then I read more books, and the more books I read, especially of people's personal experiences. I just finished Fred Galvin's book, A Few Bad Men. And I sent a text to him and I said, listen, I can't believe this, man. I can't believe that the same thing that happens to every whistleblower happened to you and the 7 from the MARSOC group, and how they could do that to people who have served our country, were willing to give their life. And they could let somebody in a foreign country just lie about them with impunity and then take the side of them over the good men that sacrificed everything to fight for American values. And so all I could say to him is, I'm sorry. But if I'm honest, there's just a lot to be sorry for right now. I'm not as sorry for what the Democrats are doing. I can see it very clearly. I actually know what the symptoms are. I can see what the problem is. It's real easy to fix. But even if we fix it, the vacuum will be great. And people that are saying that they're Republicans will stand up and say, let's just go out there and harvest more ballots. Let's be the the Scott Presslers of the world. Let's ignore people like Professor Clements. Let's ignore people who were able to scrape through and create success from very little, that show a high aptitude to get things done. And let's replace them with people that are politically motivated. That's what I see now. Political appointments, ambassadorships, things like that won't see the problem, that can't see the problem, that don't want to solve those problems because of the things that it might expose downstream. Tina Peters is 70 years old. She's in prison right now, not because of the Democrats, but because of us. Because of us. We have refused to understand that we were at war. We have refused to fight back. And when people do fight back like me, I had one person that worked for me for the last 11 years. And he said, Joe, I have a hard time talking to you. And I said, why? And he says, because every time that I come to you with something, I feel like I should have gone further and understood exactly what you were going to come back at me with. And then I would have solved the problem myself. And so when I come to you and I say that I have something, I know that I'm going to get a sharp response back. That's in essence what he said to me. And he says, so it's intimidating. I don't want to talk to you because I'm afraid of you. And I was like, well, that's interesting. So why don't you start the conversation with, Joe, I'm afraid of you. And not afraid of what I'll do to him physically, but afraid of the conversation because he would not have thought it through. And then I will come up with something. He's like, how in the world that quickly did you come up to a solution when I'm sitting here, been working on it for 2 weeks? It's very frustrating for people. And I said, start the conversation with, I'm intimidated. And I'm sorry, I might not have seen this all the way through. And then let's go from there. Let me see if I can help you through that process. 11 years he's been with me. It's the first time I've had that conversation. So I do recognize as well that I make bad decisions at times. I made a bad decision about getting involved in this to begin with 5 years ago. Because I had a friend of mine that told me, I just did a 1-hour video on Facebook where I explained whether or not I did want people to be put to death for treason against America. And I said, well, if it's the law, if you don't like it, change the law. You know, they won't, though, because they're going to weaponize it against us like they did the 1512 law that was used in Enron. But as we walk through this and think about what we're trying to accomplish with Tina Peters and with this election fraud, our problem is actually not the Democrats. See, bad people will only stay within the guidelines that you give them. If they step over the guidelines, they're afraid of consequences. Now, that includes judges. That includes lawyers. They don't like to be disbarred. I got sued for defamation by a second person other than Eric Coomer. And this person was the man that went over to Ukraine and said that I slandered him for calling him a man, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember the whole thing. But the case got dismissed, thrown out. And the attorney for that person was disbarred because he committed judicial misconduct in the case. One of the few times that I've seen the system work. But when you have more cases out there, lawfare cases out there, and you have a lack of effective leadership within our own government, and they use the excuse that, well, you know, it's complicated. It's not complicated actually at all. Then you have people like Tina Peters that get to rot in jail. And they rot in jail because of our own side, betrayal against the American people. Not because of anything that the right has done. All right. I'm also going to talk today about, it had to come up that I sued Mike Lindell. I'm going to address that today. We have the Antifa arrest down in Texas. We have the election fraud, reporter exposed 2020 theft shut down by Elon in 2024. We're going to go through that. And then Gary Bernstein, I had a conversation with Matt DePerno, and who, by the way, he's got some stuff that's happening. I thought maybe I'll just fly to Washington and I'll sit at the White House and have a conversation with President Trump. I'm sure he's heard plenty of stuff that he needs to have unwashed from him. But we're gonna go through just a bunch of stuff today. Sorry, I was reading something just now from Matt. But I want to go through the stuff that was stopped in 2024. And then I want to ask you guys a simple question. Why is it if they knew what had happened in 2024, weren't there mass arrests and people over in Serbia that were arrested immediately? Why in the world were there's not a rendition flight that was sent to put people in Guantanamo Bay and have them arrested for stealing the election in 2024 when they knew that Dominion Voting Systems was at the epicenter of all of this? Why am I still in a lawsuit with Eric Coomer, a guy that was recruited by the CIA, most likely recruited by the CIA, because who else would hire a guy that couldn't pass the background check to work at McDonald's? And it just so happens that a congressman, a sitting congressman, asked Clinton Curtis and a Chinese company to build an election system dating back to 2002 that in 2004 could steal an election without you ever seeing it. How would that even be a possibility? And how on the heels of that did they find this guy Eric Coomer and put him inside of Sequoia? And if CIFIS, which is the organization inside the government that is supposed to root out any national security interests, said that Sequoia needed to be sold off, and it was sold off in 2009 after putting people in positions of power and authority during that time transition, and the only person that lasted throughout the entire thing is his name, Eric Coomer. He's it. He's the one guy that went through the whole thing. Well, there's a few others who was radically left. How in the world are these people not in cuffs? And I'll tell you why. Not because of the Democrats. It's because the Republicans know that they're faced by a system that literally is rife with corruption, and they don't know what the outcome will be. They're afraid of it. They're cowards. And there is no appetite right now to make decisions to have military tribunals, which is what they should be doing. They should arrest 50,000 people, run them through a government tribunals, line them up, execute them, line them up, execute them. After you get to about 200 people being executed, the rest will sing like birds. You want to know why? Self-preservation. A vast majority of these people on the left are so pathetically weak that it would take no time at all to get to the bottom of the election crime. To reset the reality that then will ripple through the rest of the world. And we won't have Macron actually talking about going to war and World War III and that Europe needs to be able to mobilize against Russia because Russia is not our enemy. And it's all too familiar. When I had this interview yesterday that you guys will see on Friday with Sam, he's a pastor, and he's like, well, Russia is providing it, and Russia. And I'm thinking to myself, so I can be accused of being a Russian sympathist for being smart and recognizing that if Russia were the problem, Russia wouldn't just box up a bunch of AK-47s and send them in the mail to different countries in Africa, including Nigeria. Sorry. Niger Delta is what I was talking about or thinking about. So let's talk about this. Do we have our guest yet? No? Yes? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Emerald Robinson. She went nuclear on more proof of the 2020 election was stolen. By the way, I've been putting this stuff on X all day long. All day long, I've been putting stuff out. This is what happened in Nevada. This is what happened in Michigan. This is what happened in Texas. This is what happened in Colorado. I have screenshots about things that are happening in Colorado that people don't even know we have screenshots of. I got people like Matt Crane that's saying that all the county clerks and recorders are all on board to make sure that Tina Peters stays in jail. So I pick up the phone and call a couple county clerks and recorders, and I said, did you agree to sign on to a letter to keep Tina Peters in jail? And every one of the ones I talked to said, no, absolutely not. I want nothing to do with it. Why are you putting me in the middle of this fight? Why do we even have an opinion, is what one said. Why do we have an opinion on whether or not Tina Peters should be in jail? We should say, listen, no 70-year-old woman who is in poor health for a crime that did not have anything other than the intent was to protect the American people should be in jail for any time, one of them said. Well, that's interesting. So who's Matt Crane talking about when he says the county clerks and recorders all believe that Tina Peters should be kept in jail? What kind of diabolical person? I tell you what kind of diabolical person. His name's Matt Crane. That's the diabolical person that would want to keep a 70-year-old Gold Star mom in prison who previously had cancer and is in poor health and has been incarcerated for over a year, trying to uncover election fraud against the people in her community, which is her job. Only devils would do that. Oh, unfortunately, only devils whose wife works for Dominion/Liberty Voting. So we're going to talk about the DOJ challenging some things, some gun law bans. And I think we have an interview. We'll figure out whether or not we have an interview or not here shortly. We will get right into it. But let's talk about right now, if we can, Emerald Robinson. Let's start at the top, shall we? So this is the first tweet. And this tweet was, no, this is the wrong one. 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 Let me see if I can get this straight here for you real quick. It's going to go backwards. So if you just go to her page and go all the way down to number one, it's going to go about 25 or 26 down. Let me see if I can see it while you put it up on screen while you're doing it. About halfway down, I'm going to go all the way to November 23rd. Go ahead and put down that November 23rd should be Emerald Robinson talking about Dear Elon Musk. This says, Dear Elon Musk, I'm reaching out for comment. Oops, put this over here. Here we go. Comment on a story. It was October 2024. You were staying on a property at Mar-a-Lago. You met with a man, provided the technical details on how the voting machines are rigged. Then you went to Trump rally in Pennsylvania and discussed Dominion. And let's, if we go through all this stuff, underneath that, it says Leah Hoops, who's been on here before, says Elon Musk was approached by Greg Stenstrom at a rally in Delaware County in 2024. Elon reposted Greg's comments. We have had the evidence since 2020 on video. So that's true too. But let's go back to it if we can. Go back to the thing, put it up on here if you would. Right above that, you said it's time to tell you a story about how the 2024 election fraud was stopped. Are you ready? I need you guys to understand as I read through this that this is Dominion voting systems. They did not address ES&S, Smartmatic, or Clear Ballot. Now, they're all the same substructures. They have the same issues. And one of the things that I was able to do very recently is uncover election fraud related to Clear Ballot. Now, I worked with a group of people. I have to be very specific now because Coomer's lawyers like to say, do you have that information? I work with people because I want to catch people lying. So I will go through and I will listen to certain things. I will ask them to do certain things. I won't gather any of the information personally. I will validate it, go through validation process with others. And then I'm like, all right, that checks. Keep that in a vault or do whatever you're going to do with it. I may have to come back to you and ask you questions on that. Now, some of the people that get involved in this are deathly afraid of being doxxed because of what's happened over the last 5 years. Here's what I can say. What you're about to hear actually occurred fully. Now, there was also, by the way, a phone call that was made to Elon, and he said, it's done. Trump will win. And he left Mar-a-Lago early. Left early on election day. Go check the math. This is true. So Emerald says, a few weeks before the 2024 election, Senator Mullen and former Senator David Perdue finally arranged a meeting between Trump advisor Susie Wiles and one man who could explain exactly how America's election systems were rigged. The meeting took place at Mar-a-Lago. Susie Wiles had publicly said the election fraud was not real, and the people who thought so were crazy. After the briefing, she didn't know what to think. She asked for a piece of cake. She ate it slowly. Then she made the decision. Trump's team should be briefed too. In the end, the man stayed at Mar-a-Lago for 3 days to brief everyone. There was only one man who Wiles trusted to confirm it all, Elon Musk. A call was made. The man found himself in a room with Musk. Musk declined to sit through a full briefing. Just give me your data. That sounds exactly like Elon. So Elon Musk read the AI summary of the technical data. Then he picked up his phone and made a call. We have a problem. It's true. Then Musk got on a plane to host a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. It was October 17th, 2024. Elon got on stage and attacked Dominion. Who was the head of Dominion for strategy and security, Dominion voting systems, all the way up to the 2020 election? His name is Eric Coomer. See, if Eric Coomer wouldn't have, as I believe, gotten drunk, as I believe this is how it happened. I believe he got drunk. Sat around, he was drinking, and decided that the thirst that I'm getting from making all these posts and saying, un-Trump me, wasn't enough for Eric Coomer. He wanted people to know in his bombastiousness that he was responsible for making sure that President Trump was not going to be president. Don't worry about it. Trump's not going to win. I made effing sure of it. Okay. He was one of many, 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 many people at Dominion. A relatively unknown force, propped up by saying I have a PhD whose PhD thesis seems to be used mathematically in PID controllers that were put inside the election. He picked up the phone and he made a call. We have a problem. It's true. Okay, so as we go to number 5, real quick, Elon Musk said at the rally, there's always the question of Dominion voting machines. It's weird that they used in Philadelphia and Maricopa counties, but not in a lot of other places. Doesn't that seem like a heck of a coincidence? Musk was warning us the system was rigged. See, but he can't come out and say it's rigged. You know why? Because we're not afraid of their side. We're afraid of our own side. Because making that admission makes you the same as President Trump, an enemy to this radical agenda. I have an enemy. There's many other enemies. Patrick Byrne, in the middle of all this, says Emerald is breaking the story at last. See, Patrick Burns on the other side has been probably one of the most, sane voices in all of this. A man that has taken very little credit, done very little to, put himself in the limelight. Sometimes gets out there and does interviews as an eccentric introvert at best, and but a very good dude, right? He likes to be barefoot, but he's a good dude. He's a very good dude. Number 6, how could the 2024 steal be stopped a few weeks before the election? A man who briefed Musk had a team at Patrick Byrne and Gary Bernstein. The team had recruited a dozen people who knew how the rigged system was built in Venezuela. They had worked for Smartmatic and Maduro. Number 7, a group of whistleblowers were hiding in a hotel in Gstaad, Switzerland before the 2024 election. That's where General Flynn flew to see them. Flynn asked, okay, so this is interesting. Flynn asked, how long was has election fraud been going on? They said, Venezuela now rigs it in 72 countries for the last 20 years. Now, if I was in America, I'd be concerned. But if I was in any one of the other 71 countries, I'd be more concerned. See, in 2004, when Hugo Chavez was being installed in Venezuela, they had the perfect deal. They could just bankrupt the country, destroy people's lives, and make it a hellhole so they could basically hide. You ever seen The Lion King? You ever see when evil took over and what happened to the kingdom? That's what happened in Venezuela. A lot of similarities that we're dealing with right now. Only this isn't a cartoon, it's real life. And a lot of people died under that regime. Number 8, the whistleblowers from Venezuela had video meetings with Musk's team and Trump's team to explain the technical details of the election fraud. Most important detail, the Dominion IP addresses that were located all cost $15 in Bitcoin from an anonymous Japanese account. The relevant data and IP addresses were now verified. This when Senator Mullen came to the rescue again. A cybersecurity team got the data. 3 days before the 2024 election, a Dominion office in Serbia was hit. Their computers were useless. Eric Coomer, Dominion Voting Systems, Fox News settled, Newsmax settled, all because judges weaponized against them. Judges again weaponized against the American people for Comey and Letitia James. They weaponized again at the state level against President Trump being on the ballot in 2020 or 2024 and said that he couldn't, only to be overturned by the Supreme Court. It might make the Supreme Court do one thing drastic, and that is replace every judge out there and issue new elections for every position across the entire country and freeze out the media. That would have to happen. Otherwise, frankly, there's no way to fix this because it was a slow boil towards this communist regime. And every person, by the way, that was in those positions of trust or work for the government should be disqualified, in my opinion. Number 10. On election day, nobody knew if the cybersecurity team had been successful in knocking out the Serbian computers. Everybody at Mar-a-Lago had to wait for the results without certainty. Man who briefed Musk flew to Oslo that day. His team would flee USA if they failed. Now, you remember what I said I was getting ready to do in 2024. If Kamala Harris was going to be elected, you could check my deal. I was out. I was leaving the country. I had 2 countries that I knew of that I could go to very safely, and a third that was on my bucket list. It was the only places that I thought I could have been safe. I knew that I had to leave. And in large part, I'm still facing a large amount of persecution by a weaponized judiciary that still is keeping Tina Peters in jail and doing a lot of damage to a lot of other people. Number 11, imagine the moment on election day, Trump had no idea if he would win. Patrick Byrne watched results from Qatar. Gary Bernstein watched from Switzerland. All of them would be hunted down if the 2024 election fraud was successful, and the USA would be finished. Number 12. I mean, as I'm going through this deal, one of the reasons why I don't really enjoy, what are they called? I don't enjoy influencers. They don't have any real life experience. I can't identify with them. Right. I go look for people and try to figure out who's being honest or not being honest. And I heard Bernie or Benny this morning. He's talking about it, and again, these guys they don't think that it makes a difference, right? They're just in it for the clicks and the meat, and staying in that little group. That's why I said our side is actually the problem. Like I've had to build up my Twitter following 6 times, 7 times. No, that's not true. My total following across the board 6 or 7 times. X is 3 times. It's my 3rd time. Let's go back to it real quick. Guys, hit the share button if you would. You hit the share button. You guys hit the share button. Doesn't matter. They're not going to let you share it with your friends anyway. So just share it just to appease me. Just hit the little share button. Or 12. Trump was upset with his own staff after Elon Musk verified the fraud was real. He's been gaslit for 4 years by his team to drop the topic. In fact, his staff hired a Cuban intelligence asset in 2020 to investigate the fraud. To lie to Trump about an election was fair. Number 13. But that's the thing about Trump. He always hires the wrong people. Mr. President, let me explain something to you. The day that people that have credibility get told they don't have credibility, when they're the ones that literally fearlessly did everything and never taken a dollar from anyone and stood on the thing, there's only 2 things that can be true. One, you use them as useful idiots, or frankly, you hired the wrong people that kept you away from some of the smartest people out there. That's the reality. And I tried to help Mike Lindell. You know why I tried to help Mike Lindell is because you kept talking to him. And I was like, well, this guy is literally going to sink his own ship. So I stepped into the deal and I did everything I was supposed to do. I took his $800,000, $900,000 bill that he was spending on infrastructure, and I got it down by 75%. I gave all of my team to Mike Lindell to say, hey, listen, I need you to help him as much as possible. We're going to build this up. We're going to take him public. We're going to try and protect him over here with My Pillow. And here's the thing. You can't protect someone who doesn't want to protect themselves. That's the reality. Who's not smart enough to go from being a drug addict to one side to being addicted to the fame and fortune on the other. And I would travel with him all over the place. And he would get on the stage and he loved to talk for sure. And he took my advice for a long time. And I was like, Mike, don't talk about that. Mike, don't talk about that. Mike can't, Conan's bad. Mike. But on the other side, he had people like Steve Bannon that were telling him, hey, you need to get rid of Joe. True story. Get rid of Joe. He had other people that said, oh, yeah, Joe this, Joe that, Joe this. I mean, Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs would get calls from Bannon and other people, and he would say stuff like, oh, so Brandon House in the middle of the night, here's what you guys don't know. In the middle of the night in January of 2022, 2023, 2022, 2022, I don't remember. Beginning of the year, 2023. In the middle of the night, here's what Brandon House did. He unplugged the computers, did everything, and left Mike high and dry. We were down for 48 hours. I rebuilt the entire system and put a new system up literally 48 hours later. I was able to rebuild the system for a couple $100,000, of which I put the money in to get it done. And we were back up and running, and everything was awesome. I did that. He got abandoned by Brandon House, who then, by the way, subsequently abandoned him again at his own trial. He was supposed to testify for Mike Lindell and didn't show up. True story. Check the math. You go ahead and check it. The people that were supposed to stand up that said that they were friends with Mike Lindell never showed. Yeah, me, I'm pissed off. He's took $3-4 million from me. I got up on the thing and I'm like, Mike takes bad advice from a lot of people. Mr. President, so do you. You got a big heart. You got this huge, huge heart. You want to help people. It's evident. Man, when you step out there and you go, and I'm guilty of it, but you step out there and you want to help people and you know they're going to shit in your face and you just take it and smile and nod. You hold it all in. Somewhere along the line, you will deliver the fatal blow back to them. But you got people that frankly work for your tech companies, and your tech companies are not doing well because frankly, they don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to chase Google. Well, that's not really how you make a successful business, is by following someone else's business model. You do it by addressing the problem, find the problem, fix that problem right there. Once you fix that problem, and you build on that idea of, okay, this is the major problem that people have. I'm going to fix that problem. Nobody ever became successful in life drafting off of someone else's idea, because there's already that idea out there. So you're going to just do it better. Now you come to the market, you can say, well, there's the Excel deal. And so you had Acrobat, and you had Microsoft Excel, and then you had the Acrobat version of Excel, and one was going to beat the other. Okay, they hit the market around the same time. That's not what happened here. You're late to the party. And the same thing can be said for politics, is that you're a brilliant businessman. You brilliantly know how to negotiate, but you hire the wrong people. You hire people that tell you that they're of the pedigree. I got to tell you something. The reason why the left is successful is because they brought people like Bill Gates in. He was diabolically smart, but he's not really of the right pedigree, is he? They found good people. So let me finish this one. Here's the thing about Trump. He always hires the wrong people. Yeah, you got Bobby Kennedy right. I think you got Tulsi Gabbard right too. Person that wasn't, I would not, I mean, everyone's pissed off at Susie Wiles. But let me just be very clear. Without Susie Wiles, we don't have this meeting with Elon Musk. She is the gatekeeper. So for all of you people that want to get pissed off at Susie Wiles has to deal with the crazy and the insane. And the things that people were feeding her, where they're the rhinos, they're the ones that are getting their information from everyone else. When she ate that cake slowly, she says, holy shit. She knew she had to do something. She did, and it resulted in President Trump becoming president. She single-handedly, Susie Wiles single-handedly, President Trump has said she's probably one of the most powerful women in the world. I believe that. Why? Because she actually knows when the gig is up. Okay. So sorry, Mr. President, going to point it out. You got your foibles and you hire the wrong people. You trust people. Even though when you say you don't, you trust them. His own advisors had tried to keep Trump from meeting with the team that saved the 2024 election. People like Boris Epstein and Chris LaSavita had blocked the truth at every turn. So did Mark Meadows in 2020. I was supposed to meet with President Trump that Saturday. Instead, they attacked my company, tried to steal the $3.5 million I had in my bank account, which may not sound like a lot for a business to have in the account, but they were trying to take it all. And destroy my business. So I had to fly back on Friday. I was supposed to meet with them on Saturday. I got a phone call saying, Joe, where are you? I said, I went home. I had to save my company. Then Emerald says something right in the middle of all this. She says, I'm posting tweets one at a time so that X cannot hide, deboost the entire thread. My sources, the team that saved the 2024 election, my proof, Venezuela is now surrounded by American warships. If you don't think that President Trump is in Venezuela because of elections, you are really one foolish person. I have never been more, the thing that happens when I can get away is that I start to actually do the same thing. I got a whiteboard sitting behind me. And I just go through it. I just walk through them. I walk through it. I'm like, okay, here's the math on this. Here's the math on this. How is this connected to this? Can I find anything that has the thread? Number 14. Let's call the team that saved the 2024 election the Three Musketeers. That's the man who briefed Musk and Gary Bernsen and Patrick Byrne. I've now interviewed them many times, along with Smartmatic whistleblowers from Venezuela. I've confirmed key facts with ODNI. So why don't we know? Let me just tell you why you don't know. Because it is all about theater. It is all about how you put it out there, and you're afraid that someone that if you go too fast, then people don't have the ability to stew on this. That's why I've been very patient with the whole process. $140,000 in sanctions and counting. And the fact that I put up with a court system that is absolutely corrupt, and why I will call out the fact that treasonous traitors need to be hung by their neck until dead. Here's where the story gets really wild. The Three Musketeers were also the ones that warned Trump about election fraud after the 2020 election. Where do you think Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani got their information about Smartmatic and Judge Janine got them connected? See, here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have. See, when I went to the information prior to actually getting involved in writing the model that said, all right, here's how they're going to steal the election in the 2020 runoff, nobody in their right mind that would have met with me before that runoff election and that I went through such specificity of information related to how they were going to steal that election. Nobody in their right mind would not think, all right, this guy like looked at it. He had to have known. We didn't know a lot of things. Okay. But Sydney knew that I didn't record that call. And when Sydney put it out there that I have a recording of the call, one of two things was true. Either she knew what she was saying was false or somebody told her to say that. If somebody told her to say that, why didn't she tell me that when we had a conversation to talk? And why, when I talked to Jenna Ellis, who was the conduit to Sidney Powell, did Jenna Ellis tell me, oh, she made a mistake, we'll clean it up later? And why in the world, when I asked Jenna and this other person that I was talking to about Chuck Faddis, why in the world did she not say, yes, he's working with me? Why would he say, yeah, I think you can trust him? Not, you can trust him, but I think you can trust him. Why not be honest with me? Why was there such evasiveness? And hence the fact that I feel like I got set up by a piece of shit, which, by the way, I mean, in retrospect, they're talking about him. He wrote a book about it. Let's talk about a book, which drives me nuts. In the middle of talking about all this stuff, Gary talks about a book written by Chuck Faddis. And I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with you? I'll say it. What is wrong with you? You talk about a book by another guy while you're talking about the election stuff. You're not a serious person. And then you get the vernacular wrong, which is fine. Because then I reached out and I'm like, listen, Patrick, oh, man, the vernacular is wrong. He's not, he says, leave it alone. I said, okay, I'll leave it alone. Because the person I do trust in all this is going to be Patrick Byrne, which, by the way, does not get any credit, doesn't even ask for it. He is definitely one of the three musketeers in a good way. This is the big one. Tune in. It's Patrick right in the middle of 15. Let's go to 16. So Trump had good intel about the fraud 2 days after the 2020 election. But then Trump called in Kushner to gather a legal team to handle it all. Kushner's team was briefed next, but they dismissed the intel and did nothing. Rudy and Sidney were hung out to dry with no help. So maybe Rudy and them were hung out to dry, so they hung me out to dry. Here's what I know. I was in Washington on January 5th and January 6th. I wrote the model in December of 2020. I'm the one that took all the arrows for saying that, hey, Dominion's a problem, and here's this guy, Eric Coomer, and here's this connection to Antifa, which then connect to all the other pieces. And oh, by the way, he runs the entire system. I was willing to do all that. Cost me everything. Everything. It would be important to many people. Rudy was hung out to dry. And he had him dead to rights. Number 17, let's return to 2024. Trump has won. It's Christmas. The whistleblowers from Venezuela have moved from Gastad to Bahamas on tour visas to protect them. They're being hunted by the cartel. They need to get to the U.S. to testify and bring down the rigged voting machines. It's February of 2025. January of 2025, I wrote a bluff, bottom line, up front. I sent it to people that were in President Trump's corner in 2020. I said, hey, you might want to pass this up. Thanks, Joe. I'll take care of it. I'll send it to you. It's February 2025. Time is up now. With their visas expired, the whistleblowers would be sent back to Venezuela and killed. So Patrick Byrne got a catamaran out of Florida and sailed in the worst storm possible to the Bahamas in order to smuggle them all illegally into the USA. I don't think you guys understand how incredible this is to be sitting on the outside, understanding what we understand and watching the Kabuki theater in the lawfare and what judges are doing, what people are doing, and the fact that media like Kyle Clark, these Antifa guys that you know are really bad people, are saying that I'm calling for violence by saying that treasonous traitors should be hung by their neck till dead. And yet we have all the information and we have the witnesses and everything is as clear as day in front of us. And yet they want to tell us that somewhere along the line that I'm saying something that is out of the ordinary. or that I'm lying. When a guy runs into a building, goes into a bar and drinks a bunch of stuff, lies about it over and over and over again, negotiates out of a felony on the side of the road, something Americans don't get the ability to do. But Eric Coomer does, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. His 4th subjected DUI or driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs over the last 25 years. 4. Now, normally that would remotely put you in jail for a long time. But no, he had his lawfare on his side. And people within the organization and organism that flagged him and said, hey, don't do anything to him. Number 19, why is this happening? After all, Trump's now back in office. The most important whistleblowers in American history are stranded because Team Trump does not have its act together again. Finally, Tom Homan saves the day and sends 2 guys from D.C. to bring them all into the USA. Tom Homan, another amazing man. Remember, you have Kash Patel, you have Dan Bongino, you have all of these people that say that they're for it. You have Todd Blanche and you have Pam Bondi. You have people that on the surface are saying that they're doing the best that they can while they create problems that allow for these people to slip through loopholes. And if you don't think that the judge that let Comey and Letitia James go didn't get a phone call from someone else in the DOJ saying, hey, walk through this and kick them out here, we'll protect you. We got your back, because we're going to steal back the elections in the 2026 cycle. President Trump, we're being told, just wait. We're at war right now. We're at a civil war where people are trying to actively take over our country, and we're being told that we have to wait. We have leaders that are wildly popular, and we have others that are being said they have no credibility. I've been said, I have no credibility. I have no credibility. That's what I was told. I was told I have no credibility by people that frankly took everything from me, took my money. Mike Lindell took my money. You have like all these people that get involved in it. I don't even want to mention names right now, but I'm going to. I'm like literally just writing it all down. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it that loyalty does not get rewarded, but people betray you and he keeps letting them stay? Number 20, it's April. Trump authorizes task force on election fraud, DOJ, CIA, DHS, DNI guys meet the whistleblowers. Then the agencies start to fight over who has control over the investigation. None of these guys return for interviews or casework. They disappear. Team Trump fails again. Number 21, what's going on exactly? Our intel agencies are so compromised that none of them really want to investigate election fraud because they're involved in rigging the elections too. And Trump didn't bother to fire all these people. Number 22, it's June. 2 whistleblowers are so upset with handling the investigation, they leave the USA in secret. It's all about to fall apart. Tulsi has to bring in new guys from the 3-letter agencies to start all over. These guys are shocked beyond belief after the interviews. It's July. The investigation report is done. Tulsi prepares to bring a full report in 2020 and 2024 to President Trump. No one's talking about 2022 in the middle of it. By the way, this will be one of the most consequential interviews that I do or podcasts that I do. And I'm just talking about Emerald Robinson and giving you my thoughts in the middle of it. Trump's own White House advisors tell Tulsi to not include the 2020 evidence, so she gives Trump a partial report. Trump is now angry with Tulsi. Number 24, Trump gets tired of waiting for these reports since he wants to know if Venezuela really runs America's elections. Who does he finally call to brief him? Well, the 3 musketeers, of course, not the CIA or the DNI. That's when Trump decides it's time to overthrow Maduro. Let me tell you guys something. I asked my wife a month ago. I said, are you upset with me for what I've done over the last 5 years? And she looks at me and she says, no. She goes, the thing that I'm upset about the most is what it's taken from you in the last 5 years. It didn't take it from me. It took it from you. It took it from all of us. When Tina Peters rots in jail, it's because the system is so inherently broken that we can't get to the bottom of the ocean. You can't see it. You can't feel it. It's just not there. I am not afraid of what I've been able to do. And I'm telling you right now that as we go through this process and the more we don't do things, the worse it is going to become. I have a guest that I'm going to bring in, but before I do, I want to go through this article in the Westward. November 25th, bipartisan county clerks call on governor to keep Tina Peters in state custody. There's a picture of me and Tina Peters on the front line. It says, Peters fortunately went to jail with right-wing podcast host Joe Oltmann. So let me just tell you about the right-wing podcast host. Number one, I am a technology guy. I'm actually really good at what I do. Really good. I built a successful businesses with partners all over the country. I do podcasting because I give up 2 hours of my day. I don't get paid to do it. All the support you guys give us, it funnels back into taking care of the team so that they can make sure that they take care of things. But I'm not a podcast host. But this is what they do when they want to take credibility away from someone and saying he has no credibility. So let me just tell you what I've done. I built a company. I'm a 2-time Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year nominee. I was a finalist in 2020. I was set to sell my company, and I was the darling of the tech business. I was thinking way outside the box. I was building stuff nobody else was building. I understood systems and how they were built very, very well. And that has carried down to me even learning systems very quickly so that I can do things like run an entire network with 20 different channels going at the same time. In this letter, you can put it up if you want. In this deal, they had half dozen Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated county clerk appeared together on an online press conference on Tuesday, November 25th, pleading with Governor Polis to keep former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters in state custody and to publicly announce his decision to do so. I just read to you what was going on with the elections in 2020 and 2024 with Dominion voting systems. The fact that Elon Musk was able to step in and stop election fraud in 2024 that put President Trump in the seat that he's in today. It's not hyperbolic. It's not made up. And yet the people inside of X are still trying to keep that story under wraps. It shouldn't have 600, 800,000 people that have seen it. It should have 500 million. The message from the clerks who spent years living with the fallout from Peters' election machine breach was blunt. It follows a letter sent by bipartisan County Clerk and Recorder Association last Friday urging Polis not to transfer Peters to the custody of the Federal Bureau of Prisons as requested by the Trump administration. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser and Secretary of State Jenna Griswold also called on Polis to reject the request last week. Any move to transfer Peters to federal custody would send a dangerous signal that elected officials can sidestep consequences, according to her former peers, who say the governor's silence is already putting them at risk following a spike in threats over the weekend after the CCCA letter was made public. Let me just tell you something. The person that pushed this button, his name is Matt Crane. I would not be surprised if he was closely associated with intelligence communities that are doing whatever they can to keep this all under wraps. You just heard about the fact that CIA and ODNI and other DHS employees basically dropped the ball on the investigation into this while Tina Peters rots in jail. That's called sedition. Those people should be tried. They should be put in front of a military tribunal. And if found guilty, they should face the rest of their life in prison and or face a death penalty. That's the reality. You want to send a signal to them by arresting Polis, arresting Weiser, and they know what's coming. And let me tell you something else about what's happening in Colorado. There's a case currently that has been unsealed. We're going to talk about it in the next couple of weeks that has a grievance against Polis, Weiser, Jenna Griswold, judges, including Supreme Court judges, in a $15 million bribery case that has spanned the last 5 years. And the whistleblower is directly inside and has been admonished by all of these people for giving it up for and letting people in. A betrayal because you've let them in to our judiciary that we've used as a slush fund in order to persecute people with impunity. That case is actually pending now. I actually, by the way, like the guy that wrote this article in the Westward. He's actually a good guy, Brendan Kelly. Yeah, I kind of like him. He's a leftist, but whatever. He's still a good guy. County clerk begs Polis keep Tina in custody is another article from Attorney General. This is the NPR News. Yeah, I got honorable mention in this one too, where I said that people should be hung. All right, we take that down and we go on to I'm just going to get to it. So let me just talk to you a little bit about our guest. His name is Mark Lynch. He's a veteran investigator exposing federal spending abuses and deep dives into USAID scandals and taxpayer ripoffs. He's a former analyst for conservative think tanks. Now he's blowing the whistle on globalist grift. I think he's running for office. I didn't get that inside of this deal, but we're about to find out. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm sorry it took me so long. I had to get through the stuff that I was dealing with Emerald's posts. I'm way too close to it, and frankly, the last 5 years I've lived it, and now to finally see that Captain Obvious is catching up with everything, and yet I haven't seen any arrests is a little bit maddening.
Yes, America's furious about all that, and I can tell your heart where you're at with this, and I appreciate you exposing all this craziness. It's time for something to be done.
So tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you're working on. Are you running for office?
I'm running for the United States Senate to replace Lindsey Graham here in South Carolina.
That's how I knew your name. I just read about you last week, and I said I had to have you on the show. Yes, somebody reached out to me, and I was like, absolutely, running against Lindsey Graham. Please get rid of that guy.
Well, we're working hard to do that, and it's going to happen.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your history. Where'd you grow up?
Okay.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina. Been a resident here my whole life.
I thought you had a Chicago accent, so I apologize.
Yeah, no. And then after school, I went to the University of South Carolina, majored in advertising, public relations, and came out and continued to work with my dad. He started an appliance TV store business back in 1951, and I came out of school in 81, and in 1983, we formed a buy-sell agreement, and I started buying the business. In 1985, he turned the reins over to me, and I took it over, and our business has been blessed. God's at the center of it, and our company has grown 35 times after I took over. We had 5 employees. We have 110 now. When I came into it, we worked out of a 3,200 square foot facility, and we now are in a 132,000 square foot facility, and we have our warehousing all under the same roof, and so that makes things a lot better logistically.
I was about to say it's over 1,000 square feet per person, so I hope you got some warehouse stuff that you're doing in there too.
Yes, sir. And anyway, our business is awesome. We've got a unique culture here. We have a chapel in our company, and we have 2 pastors on staff teaching the Word of God on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. And we've been debt-free since 1999, personally and corporately. And our business is now going into the 3rd generation with my son and daughter taking over and transitioning them into it. And how did I get into politics? You know, we hear about the word politics. When you break that word apart, poly means many, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites.
Yeah.
And that's this sport that we're getting into. But back in 2014, we hosted a gentleman by the name of John Guandolo, and he ran an organization called Understanding the Threat, vanquishing the enemies of our country and bringing America back on the offensive where it belongs. And he was a Marine captain for 15 years, and later he was the head of the anti-terrorism division of the FBI. And we hosted him here in our chapel because it seats about 125 people, and we had 70 of our law enforcement agencies sheriffs, police deputies, SLED agents, FBI agents inside of our chapel hearing his presentation about how to deal with Islam at the local level. And our meeting was incredible. And I got involved with him after that and became a board member and later chairman of his board, helping his organization. And he left the FBI because of the Islamic infiltration into Congress and Homeland Security and everything. And we started training police locally and educating the public in church events and having 600 and 800 people coming to them. And then later, meeting House representatives and sheriffs and FBI agents and some of our state senators. I was asked to run for office in 2020. I ran for a state Senate seat and almost won. That was the year of COVID, where we couldn't even knock on doors after a couple of months. But since then, we formed a political activist group, keeping bad bills from getting passed and helping good bills get inside the state house and getting rid of the bad actors running for office or inside the state house and bringing better guys and gals in to run. And teaching the Constitution and doing all these things. In the last 4 or 5 years, I've been asked to run for office again. So we prayed about it, and talking to consultants, it was decided my position would be best served as a United States Senator in Congress. So here we are.
How are you faring against Lindsey Graham? I mean, you have stolen election systems there too. So, I mean, I'm the part of the thing is it's a selection, not an election, and you won't get me to believe anything different than that. I am a tech guy. I'm very good at what I do. I don't want, so I'm just telling you that please don't argue with me on that. You can argue with me offline if you disagree with me.
Yeah, no, we understand election integrity and how horrible it all is. And in South Carolina, we have open primaries also to add to that.
Well, that should
So
be.
the Democrats cross over on our Republican primary days and help change the results of our Republican elections, which is crazy. And that's how a lot of these traitors, some people call them rhinos, I call them traitors, they get in. And our state house is known as Crooked Columbia, the crookedest state house in the country. You know, we have a lot of customers that move here. We're in the appliance and furniture, electronics, TV business, and they've left the woke areas in the country. And they're so glad to be in a red state. And then we bring out the voting records and we compile all that and show people how their House reps and senators are really voting on their scorecards. And, you know, we've been showing that about Lindsey. His lifetime constitutional voting record is 57%. He's failing. His conservative review score is 43%. These are public scorecards people can look up. So I disappoint our customers because they believe they're in a red state. We're just better at faking it, I guess. But we've got a lot of work to do, and these open primaries don't help. And the election fraud going on with the ESS and Dominion machines are horrible. And we've all seen that. We hired a guy to work with our activist group that does analytics, and we noticed in some of the last elections that during runoffs, they were flipping about 3 to 4%. They had the same kind of variable each time, and so there's still a lot of cheating going on.
What's your platform?
Well, my platform is God first. That's what makes America great again. Our country, our forefathers, our framers were divinely inspired as they wrote the Constitution, and it only works in a moralistic society. And every decision I'll make is based on God's word. If it can go through that filter first, then we'll see if it can pass through the Constitution. If it can get through that, then we'll look at it. That's how I will make a decision if I go to the U.S. Senate to serve the people of South Carolina. And if it doesn't, it's a no for me, you know. And then we have to decide if it does pass through those first two filters, is it necessary, and what will it cost the taxpayer? So that's how I'll make a decision. You know, I'm 100% pro-life in my platform. Life is formed at conception. We don't get to murder the child. Again, words matter, and I call it murder, not abortion. I'm America first. I love Trump's tariffs. I mean, I think that will definitely even up the cost of the playing field and bring back American manufacturing so we can hire American workers because we take pride in our work. And when I was a child, made in America meant something. Made in China meant something too. It meant it was garbage, plastic, crap, you know. So I'm glad we can bring jobs back to America and hire Americans. I'm for doing away with the H-1B visas. We need to hire our students coming out of college. We had a presentation at Clemson University, and we spoke to the Young Republican Club there. And one of the engineering students said, you know, I graduate next year, Mr. Lynch, and I appreciate your stance on closing the border and deporting illegal aliens, but we've got a problem. We've got students from India coming into our country on H-1B visas. Their country's paying for their tuition. They will never assimilate into our country, and they're going to take my job opportunity at half the pay. And I was born in this country. So what are we doing about that? And I said, you bring up an awesome point, and we need to work on our immigration laws and our procedures of who we let into this country, and those need to end. Our kids need to be first. That's America first, not kids from other countries that are paid by their country to come here.
So how do
No,
so? Go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I look at the three things that I think are most pressing. As a senator, you're responsible for the entire population. There's 2 per state, right? And
Right.
it's kind of like I hate to say that the House of Representatives is like the JV league and the senators is like is like varsity, right? If you want to look at the two, and I know that it's not that way, but it really is. I mean, the senators have a little bit more responsibility longer term. They got more entitlements when it comes to like budgets and things like that in Congress of things that they're responsible for. And you usually typically see a higher caliber of individual in the Senate than you do in the House of Representatives. It's a much more difficult threshold because you have the entire state that votes for you. Now, with that said, you know, I'm one of those guys that looks at how do we solve the problems with the poorest among us. It's as if you have a tree and 3 of your roots are rotted, right? And I'm pretty sure that in your state you face the same problem we have in Colorado or in Texas, where you have, you know, 40% live below the poverty line or at the poverty line or in a place where they're live paycheck to paycheck. Let's say it's only 40% where you live. How can you create policies? And I know this is the big problem with Congress is they don't feel like those policies ever get back to that. You know, it's not a state deal. It's like you're like the overarching of, well, that's what the state Senate's supposed to do or the state legislature is supposed to do. But how can you address the 3 droughts or deserts that I think face almost every country or every state in our country? And that is food deserts, opportunity deserts, and education deserts. Like how do we restore education to our country? Because right now it's indoctrination and pure propaganda. How do we restore dignity to our country? Opportunities going to even the inner cities. And if you restore the education, it restores the opportunities. And then how do you make sure that you get rid of food deserts for the single moms and people that are the poorest among us can see that there's actual opportunity? Because everything seems to break below 40%. Like those are the parts of our roots that we just try to stay away from.
Yep, that's a great question. You know, again, God first, and again, that's got to be brought back at the school level with prayer and God's word being taught. And you know, I would tell any parent right now, it's just like my grandchildren. My son and my daughter both have 2 kids each, and they understand they're going to be homeschooling their children because our curriculum is not America first. We have, ever since core education came into the picture, our kids are being taught to hate America. Socialism's okay. Hate your parents. Do whatever you want to do. Get a transgender surgery. All the horrible stuff that we've allowed the enemies of our country to write to brainwash our kids and control their thinking. And we're seeing that happening. You know, we've had Islamic infiltration into our seminaries in Dallas, Texas, and Marxist teaching that it's good to be gay and come out and start your gay church and marry gay couples, and everything's completely upside down. So we've got to get control of our public education curriculums again and analyze that and get it rewritten and get government out of that and bring parents back into the involvement of it. And a lot of that happened in 2020 when we saw, when our kids were at home, what they were looking at online and the materials they were reading and the books that they were studying, because it's all X-rated stuff in the third grade and up, and so we can't have that. Our kids are being taken from us if they're not killed in the womb with the murder called abortion. They're being captured later in their minds and corrupted. And we had a documentary that a lot of good people in the country put together that came out in 2020 called "Whose Children Are They?" And that exposed a lot of the Marxist communist curriculums going on and what was going on with our budget in DC, paying for these organizations to write this garbage that our kids were studying. So it's all broken and it needs to be taken over and rewritten completely. And I'll help influence our governor and work together for South Carolinians to get their educational systems fixed. And we're not going to pass kids forward just to get more federal funding. When they can't read or write yet, they need to stay back and they need to be taught. It's not about the teachers advancing kids and earning more credits for their schools from the federal government. All that's horrible. The Department of Education, like many agencies and departments our country has allowed to be opened, are unconstitutional. And when we're talking about inflation and the budget, experts that we work with tell us that probably up to 80% of the budget in America could be resolved if we got rid of all the unconstitutional departments we've created in our country. Our government's way too big, the payroll's too big, and it's crippling America. The people know how to do most of this much better, and in a capitalistic society, competition brings the best. It'll bring the cream to the top, and we'll get better curriculums and better things done and end this inflation cycle that we're in. And we got to quit. I know when the government closed, the SNAP programs ended, and I'm glad of that. We've got too many people that have abused those systems. There are some people, yes, that need a hand up, and they need to be taken care of. But we have allowed too many millions, trillions of dollars to go into these programs that's just funding the cause of socialism, which is communism for dummies. They're going to be dependent on the government. The Lord says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And so we've got people that are capable of working, just all they're doing is walking to the mailbox to see if their checks come in. And we need to stop all of that. So we've got a lot of work to do. And those are some of the things I'll definitely be working on in the big picture. The other thing is, just replacing Lindsey Graham will bring a lot of money back to the budget because he's over USAID and there's all kind of crazy spending going on there. We had a list that came up with some of that with the waste and abuse that's happened. There's $1.5 million that have been spent in the USAID budget to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion all across the world, and especially in Serbia's workplaces and business communities. $70,000 was for production of a DEI musical in Ireland, just an example of the craziness. $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia that we paid for. And you and I, Joe, we're paying for that. The citizens are paying that. We're paying for the demise and the destruction of America. In the Quran, that's known as civilization jihad.
Yeah, and these are all things that you've outlined, right? So you've outlined the $1.5 million DEI push in Serbia, $70,000 for an Irish DEI musical, and $47,000 for a Colombian trans opera. Like not the Trans-Siberian Orchestra either. I'm talking about actual trans. Like
that's right.
Yeah, you went through the EVs, the Peruvian trans comic. $6 million for Egyptian tourism, $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, $6 million for fun tourism in Egypt, $47,000. I mean, it just never ends. It never ends.
Right. And then when we talk about the endless wars, we haven't made a constitutional decision to go to war since World War II, and we haven't fared well in any of those conflicts. And we're sending our young men and women into endless wars while people like Lindsey Graham gets rich off of the deal. And he's all about, conflicts. And, just recently in the Ukraine, this last part of the year, during the summer, Lindsey's going over there spending $400,000 a night, no telling what he's doing. And Trump finally brought it up, what are you doing? You need to watch your mouth. You're not our Secretary of State. That's Marco Rubio's job. And he's trying to keep war going in the Ukraine with Russia while Trump's trying to bring peace talks between Putin and Zelensky.
And he went there. He went.
Right.
He went to Ukraine, and the war got intensified the day he left.
That's right.
Right. So he's acting in proxy and doing the things that President Trump should be doing when dealing with foreign policy. And
that's right.
The reality of it is it's not the only one. It's not the only problem. We also can see what Macron's doing in trying to ready the EU and acting as the proxy for the rest of the EU,
right,
to go to war against Russia. And I'm so sick of the Russia deal, right?
Right.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we've got some really bad people all over the world that are attacking Russia, because it seems to be the adult in the room other than President Trump. Sorry, yep. That's reality.
And we heard the Logan Act several months ago, and I kind of forgot about that too, but these guys have been in violation of the Logan Act. And so, but the problem, Joe, is we're not enforcing any laws, and nothing's happening. And we watch the news every night. It's the same story, just another day older, and things are getting worse, like with the Epstein files. And, we heard about a list back in February from Pam Bondi. So what are we doing with that? Nobody's receiving any consequences. I heard you earlier before I came on, and I'm all about the rule of law too. And we have a lot of people that have committed treason in this country, and they need to face those consequences all the way back with Hillary and everybody with Benghazi and Obama's administration and the whole thing. These people are getting away with murder. And America is furious that nobody's getting arrested or dealt with these acts of treason. And, we need to run our country like we used to. And we need to go back to the pocket-sized Constitution and get away from the annotated Constitution, which is a book that weighs about 20 pounds. It's about this thick, thousands of pages. I had the privilege of meeting our Supreme Chief Justice in South Carolina, Judge John Kittredge, and he said, "Mark, you get it. I make all my laws, all my decisions as a judge on the Supreme Court of South Carolina based off the Bible and the Constitution." He said, man has always pridefully wanted to control other men. We want to be God. Some men do with their pride. And they now work off of the case law from the annotated Constitution that they wrote, where God divinely inspired our founders of our country to write the Constitution. And if I get in the United States Senate, my only authority, the only job really I have, is to serve the voters and the citizens of South Carolina and America and protect their God-given, unalienable rights. That's the job, to serve the people.
All right. So let's I'm just doing a little bit on Lindsey Graham, see what that guy's doing right now. He's deep in the middle of doing nothing. This is pretty crazy.
Well, he got a bill added in when they opened the government up because his records were getting subpoenaed for having part in the Russian collusion hoax, when he was the guy who spearheaded the whole thing, trying to get our president put in jail. But he added a new bill where the senators can now sue and get up to $500,000 per incident. And you and I will be paying for that.
Yeah,
so
it's just it never gets better, right?
Right. So he changed from a criminal under prosecution and investigation procedures into a victim, and he's going to get paid. And that's his new slant right now in the news.
And look what happens to Americans. So the reason why, by the way, I brought up, I want to get back to it real quick. I ask weird questions because I do understand how the machine works, how the state machine and the federal government machine works, and how funding happens and dollars move from the federal government back down to the state government, even those people are proxies and or citizens of that state, right?
Mhm.
When you ran a business, right? You ran a successful business that grew by 3, 4, 500%, whatever it was, 8 times, 10 times. You grew a business. You grew a business that, as people in my comments said, renovations, and those renovations, we would use your store. So they actually knew who you were. They were just talking about it in the comments. Um, let me just ask you a simple question. Would you use, let's say that all of your companies run really well, but the warranty part of your company is run poorly. Would you let that warranty company of your company run poorly?
It and dig into it and fix it. We can't let the rest of the company start funding the warranty company. Every bucket stands on its own.
See what you just did? See what I just did to you? I kind of boxed you in there a little bit. So when I talk about the broken parts of society, or the broken parts of our country or state or whatever, I actually think that that's the only place to focus your efforts. I think that if politicians spent their time talking to the 40%, the 60% are always going to take care of themselves. We always have, right? But if you take care of the 40% and you create adequate environments where you can stop treating the poorest among us like animals, because frankly, in some places that's what they do, right? And get to the ethos or to repairing that, then the rest of it will it'll blossom into something much more successful. And then this is what Japan did, by the way. They set, an ethos. And I think it's something we do very poorly in our country because, frankly, they're not in our neighborhood, right? When they come to our neighborhood, we call the police on them. so we're willing to hire them, but their drug problem is not our problem. We don't want to lock them up because we don't take their constitutional rights. So we do to them what we wouldn't do to our own kids, which is like grab them by the neck and throw them around and say, "Listen, you're going to stop doing drugs." We don't do that to people because they have a right to ruin themselves. It's just it's antithetical to who we are as a country and a community. And I think the leadership in our country has to adopt something that allows for us to have that conversation.
Yeah, there's a restaurant in our area that we all love, and I won't name names, but back when Tom Homan started coming around and we're going to start deporting all these illegal aliens.
Yeah.
This guy's restaurant one day, about 10 of his people didn't come in. His wife had to come in. He had to come in because they all didn't show up because they were scared they were going to get deported. And I said, "That's good for you. Why do you have those people working here? I don't have illegal aliens working for me. I have American citizens working here, and yeah, they cost more to pay, and it's all above the law. We're doing it the correct way, taking out taxes and doing everything by the book. And I think God blesses that. But some of the construction companies and different companies think they got to have an advantage. And if we let some of the construction people hire illegal aliens and they pay them cash under the table and all that, and they avoid
then they take
taxes
entitlements
and everything, right?
Yeah.
And that's not fair to the companies that are doing it correctly. So we've got to stop that. We've got to stop H-1B visas. We got to help our education. That's a part of this one focus. How do we help the lower 40% in the state? We need to be hiring American workers. All of our installers and everybody that work for us are American citizens. And they make more money, and they stay longer with us, and they invest in the community here, and they get a start in life, and they're able to buy a house later, and they do great, and they work with us 30 years, and they're career hires, and that's cheaper in the long run for me than hiring the deal of the day, some guy that's going to be paid under the table. We don't do that. So that's an education thing too, just within industries. And if all they have is American citizens to hire, we're all on the same page again. And the competition levels off that way for everybody. And we can hire American workers and help our people that were born in this country get good jobs and help build our state out better.
Well, I tell you what, I'd support you just because, number one, you own a business, you understand what it takes to run a business. You understand my analogy when it comes to, the roots of your business. You always want to make sure that you have good roots no matter where you align in your business, because
Yes, sir.
it affects the experience that you have with the organization. Same thing could be with the country. The poorest among us does not allow, if we don't take care of them, we don't take care of the roots of our nation, right? We've ignored
That's
it. And
right.
frankly, that's why the Democrats are able to get away with so much stuff and talk about how we don't care about them, because we don't solve the problems.
Right.
Pretty easy.
Well, and as a Christian, I don't have to be forced by the government to give anybody a handout or help anybody. We bring people in here. My wife and I have worked in the recovery industry for 40 years, and about 15% of our staff are people we've helped from homelessness, believing in the lies of addiction, into freedom in Christ. And some of them have keys. They're managers here. They have six-figure incomes, but a few years ago they were homeless and didn't think they had a chance. And so we give people second chances here, and we teach them the gospel of Jesus, and we work with them and mentor them. And they're some of our best employees because, like this time of year, in a couple of days, we're going to be celebrating Thanksgiving. And one of my managers here came and hugged me again today. He said, "If I don't see you tomorrow because I heard you weren't going to be here, man, thank you." He said, "From the bottom of my heart, I'm telling you, thank you for this opportunity. You've helped change my life." And he's born in South Carolina, lived here his whole life, and he's working hard, and he just needed a little bit of help and some direction and some discipline. And these are things we've done, because in our company, it's like I went to a Dave Ramsey entree leadership class years ago for a week in Nashville at his organization. And he said, "Mark, we have to be a high D." They did a DISC personality test. And he said, "You better be a high D if you're running your own business." And that's who comes here to these courses. And then he talked about it. We have to be their father, their pastor. We got to be a hard ass when it's time to be, and be their boss, and sometimes knows the answer. And sometimes it means you've decided to quit because you're not going to follow the rules and procedures of our company. But it takes all that, and we're here. I have an open door policy, and that's part of the greatest reward is helping people and counseling in their marriage, or we all go through stuff in life, and working with people and helping guide them through the gospel and help them become what God created them to be. And that's just an awesome thing to see that ride out and watch miracles happen in people's lives.
I agree with that fully. Well, I got to tell you, how do people follow you? How do people give you? How do people support you? Let's start there. And then I'm just telling everybody, if you're there in the state, do you need volunteers? I mean, is there a way to how people that can engage with you in your environment?
Yes, sir. So we're a legitimate campaign. We talked about being debt free and everything. My wife and I prayed about it, and I know Roger Stone and met with him back in February, and
That's
he
my
said
main
Trump
man.
wants to see two things. Your polling and your skin in the game. So my wife and I prayed about it. We pushed $5 million of our own money into this campaign. But it's going to take more than that. But I'm just telling people, I'm not boasting. We're just putting our money where our mouth is. We're in this to win it. And 57% of South Carolinians in the Rasmussen polls that we've done say they will never vote for Lindsey Graham again. And they're ready for a successful businessman instead of a career politician or another attorney. So to help us, number one, we win this on our knees in prayer. This is spiritual warfare. It's evil that's going on in this country. We've got to bring God back first into everything. And I'll help keep other U.S. senators accountable and talk to them in the bathrooms and the halls and in the Senate chambers. If they're truly a Republican, it's time for us to honor our oath that we've taken to preserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Go to lynchforsenate.com, spelled out F-O-R, Lynch for Senate. there's a place there to contribute. We definitely need donations. We just spent $500,000 the last quarter on TV commercials, and it takes a lot of money to do this. But we're not going to spend $100 million. That's foolishness.
All right. So I just want you to know that we should probably talk after the show. I'll have them grab your information.
Okay.
I'll have them send me your information. I can help you in ways that I can help you.
I appreciate that.
And I know I can help you because I'm helping others.
Yes.
So I know there's some ways that I can help ease the pain for you and make things I can help you.
Okay.
So,
and then they can sign up on our volunteer page to help as we get closer to the time to knock doors and put signs out. So sign up and help us.
All right, we'll do. Brother, thank you, Mark, for coming on. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you putting God first, then your family, also putting skin in the game. The last 5 years has been difficult, but worth it, right? So if we can get to the bottom of this and we can redeem and restore God to our country and to every part of our way of life, it's what needs to happen. So I'll be following your campaign all the way through, and I think now's the time for you to defeat Lindsey Graham. He's just
yes, sir.
He's just a really bad person.
And he's just a man.
Just a man.
It's happening.
You gotta, the thing that I always say is you can't forget where you came from, right? And you can't act as if you have all the answers. And he feels like he has all the answers, and he answers to someone, but it's definitely not God, and it certainly isn't he shows a lack of regard for the American people, almost as if they're slaves. So God bless you, and we'll be praying for you after the show.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. So I really wanted to have Mark on. Somebody sent me something originally to connect with him, but he actually is very modest about his background. His background it's significant, right? And putting $5 million into a race that may or may not be won, knowing the things that are in place, such as election machines and fraudulent ballots or mail-in ballots, or it's a place of uncertainty. So imagine having the faith to sit down with your wife. I did this 5 years ago. I do this pretty much all the time now. To sit down with your wife and say, I think we need to put, they say that we need to have skin in the game. Skin in the game could be $500,000. It could be $1 million. It doesn't matter. He's like, no. I'm going to put $5 million in. I want the people in my community and in my state to recognize that I'm here to help them. And it doesn't matter how much money I spend. It doesn't matter how much money I have. Never seen a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. I'm willing to put up what it takes in order to make sure that they know that I'm committed to the people in my community and my state. So my hat's off for Mark. You get a chance to have a conversation with Mark, you should go to his website, give him a little bit, put a couple dollars in the coffer. Even if you're out of state, you're not precluded from actually giving, or you're not precluded from giving him money. You can drop money into his coffer. You can also, if you're in the state, volunteer. I'm sure he needs volunteers to go around and knock on doors. That's probably the most tiring part about it and most fulfilling all at the same time. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to quickly go through. No, I'm not. I'm not going to talk about it today. I got a bunch of stuff to go over. We're going to talk about Antifa tomorrow. And we're going to talk about mass arrests of ICE protesters, and we're going to talk about Kyle Clark.
We're done.
Unmute that. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do that tomorrow. Because today I wanted it to be about what was it about. So I just want you to hit the share button. I want you to hit the up button. I want you to do things that act like you're about it. See, we always do this thing like we want to talk about it and be about it. Well, you have to go through the actions at the time that you're doing it and say, hey, consider this. Consider what he's saying. Many of you have been listening to me for a long time. And to that, I'll say thank you. And in the week of Thanksgiving, I'm grateful and thankful for the people that listen. I'm even more grateful and thankful for the people who continue to pray and support and do the things that are necessary in order to stay in this fight. And if you're on the edge, if you're on the fence and you just don't know if you want to get involved, or you feel like, okay, you're doing your part, I would just say this: pray about what it means for you to be involved. Yeah, that's it. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you for the courage that you give me, the tenacity that you give me, the character by which you have me operate, to be honest and authentic, and to talk about things that are truly at the forefront of my mind and my heart. Father, we don't want blood. Yet we want accountability. We want consequences. And the anger we feel when we see our brothers and sisters be adversely affected, it's real. It doesn't matter what we're talking about, whether it's medical malpractice or just absolute in-your-face corruption or the stealing of elections. We feel like we're being held hostage by really bad people that just lie to us with impunity, and we're just supposed to take it. We don't want to take it anymore, Father. We just want to get to the bottom of it and actually have a real societal shift, real change. That means examining the bad roots of our government and our country, cutting them out completely. Father, I just ask that you give us the strength to be able to carry forward, to give us the ability to have all of our hope in you, Father, all of our faith in you, and that we can follow through and make good decisions to never become the very thing we're fighting against. I ask you to bless Mark in his campaign and his wife and his relationships with his children, with his wife, with his family. He's able to balance this campaign with honoring his family. Father, I ask you to please bless Tina Peters. Give her the strength to be able to push through this and supernaturally, whatever needs to be done to get her out of jail, Father, I just ask that happen. I say these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. Share button, 5-star review, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're on all that fun stuff. All right, let me come over here and see what Jeff's saying about me. He said I had something on my glasses. To whom much is given, much is expected. I agree with that. Gammy? What did I write? I cleaned my glasses. Got it. Len Boss, nice to see you. Mod Trend, always good to see you. Chris, good to see you. See, I'm going to miss people. It's going to make people see here. So many people today. Jay, Christmas. Well, Tokyo Drone, great to see you. All right. I hope you guys have a great week this week with the holidays, but I'm going to jump out now. All right. God bless you. See you soon.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. the hill. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown, tame nation. It's our battle song, motivating hearts where the